Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
I am that dude, Bodkins. Patty to patty. It's ridiculous. No way. There's nobody else out there. He's your guy. Give a big round of applause for the one and only BodkinShow. I'm going to repeat that again, folks. I didn't stutter. Welcome to the Bodkins Show. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of the Bodkin Show. I am that dude, Bodkins, of course. This is our Sunday night interview sit-down show. We got a special guest for you tonight. Before we give him the introduction, please check out Thursday's show. Me and Johnny Cruz sat down. We talked a little bit of NBA, about the play-in games. We covered the Final Four. Plus, we also talked, we previewed the UFC 287 that happened last night. So if you missed any of that, please check that out Thursday. But I don't want to wait any longer talking about the past. Well, we're going to talk about the past tonight, but we're going to talk about everything with our guest. Welcome. This one's special, folks. Sometimes we do stuff for you guys. Sometimes I got to do stuff for myself. And this tonight's a little bit for myself. Tonight's guest, none other than Missouri High School Basketball Hall of Famer. None other than a man who's won over 500 career games as a basketball coach. None other than my old ball coach, the man who sat me on the end of the bench most of my life, who, for other reasons, I know why I wasn't very good, I'll tell you that much. But a man who I call a friend, a mentor. Welcome to the show for the very first time, Coach Steve Scholfield.
Thank you, Nick.
Coach, welcome. Let's start from the very beginning. Coach, it's funny because I've known you for over 20 years, but I don't know a lot about you other than, well, you're just a ball coach, a guy who loves playing basketball. Has basketball always been in your blood? Like, was that the first sport you always loved?
No, actually, baseball was. I played a little baseball in high school. I was cut after my sophomore year in high school from the basketball team. Now, I went to Quincy, Illinois, which was a high school about 2,200. In 1980, they were ranked number one in the United States by USA Today. So, big basketball tradition, and I had the athleticism of a Nick Bodkins.
I was going to say, Coach, we got a lot in common. I was cut freshman year of baseball. So, unfortunately, I don't have the notoriety to say we were like number one ranked in the state. That, I don't have that, kind of built in.
Yeah, it was another world. Our gym held about 5,000 there every night. And basketball is just a big tradition, and I just wasn't good enough.
What made you get into coaching then? Like, what made you start following the game?
I've always liked sports. I guess competitiveness. I wasn't good enough to play them, so I thought I'd do the next best thing and try to coach them.
Was that always the goal, high school coaching, or was there something other bigger plan kind of as you were growing up?
Oh, I planned on going pro, of course. No, there was really no plan. Probably my problems back in high school was I had no plans, and I actually started college as a business major, and that wasn't very good. So I went into physical education. Coaching came along with it. I've always enjoyed sports, whatever sport was going on at the time.
You said baseball was kind of your first love and played it. Ever thought about coaching baseball? I know you coached softball for a year or two, but was baseball ever an option?
Yeah, I've coached some baseball in the past. Baseball's gotten so slow, and I was never went to the doctor, but I'm pretty sure I'm ADD. They just didn't have that back in my day. You just got swats. And I just lost interest in baseball because of the slowness of it. And basketball moved along. We can kind of set the pace. I like the new baseball with the timer and everything a lot better. But basketball is now my first love.
So once you got to teaching, like, what was the first coaching gig that you had then?
I coached a junior high team in Illinois back in 85, 86. I once coached, the next year I coached a girls team. Now, these were, when I was at the girls, I was an assistant coach. It was in Iowa. And back then, Iowa played 6-on-6. They played 3-on-3 one end, 3-on-3 on the other end. So I bet you haven't had a whole lot of people on that's ever coached 6-on-6 girls.
No, the only time I knew that is my grandma told me they played 6-on-6. So there's that.
This might sound like a sexist thing, but I thought it was pretty good for the girls. And
yeah.
You'd be shocked how many girls wanted to play defense and not the offensive end. But it's gone away, and I don't know. I understand why girls went to 5-on-5, but it wasn't bad. It wouldn't have been bad for some boys teams, actually.
We could have used 6-on-6, a couple years I played for you, Coach.
Yeah, we could have probably got you a little more time. Defensive wizard. I could have got you down there at that one end.
Hey, there you go.
We got a little nervous.
So from the girls game, what led you into the boys, or with just get to a different school then?
After the 1 year in Iowa, I knew the 6-on-6 girls wasn't for me. I went to Webster Groves outside of St. Louis. Just took a chance. They were looking for a sophomore coach. I had no idea about Webster Groves history or anything. I don't know if you know, it's pretty good. They've won a couple state championships since then. Some Division I players. I was a sophomore coach there, but didn't have a full-time teaching job. I moved over to Valley Park, which is a great school district, but not the basketball tradition of Webster Groves. Thought I always wanted to go back to Illinois. If you've lived in Illinois, Missouri basketball, it's just not the same. Just a little more Illinois' first sport is basketball. And I thought I'd stay in Illinois as an assistant coach down in Southern Illinois. 2 years later, the state ran out of money, and they had to cut a bunch of teachers. I was one of them. I went back to Missouri, started my head coaching career at a school called Brashear up by Kirksville, about a school of 90. Lasted there 2 years, and then moved on around and back to the Frisco League here now.
Yeah, you've been at the Frisco League for over almost 30 years, Coach. I mean, right? My
around 25, actually. So a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. I've hit up 4 of the schools. Don't plan on hitting them any more of them.
Coach, I mean, I got to ask you, like, you've talked about retirement. I've heard you talk about retirement. To me, when people say, hey, I've heard, the rumors of like, hey, you could retire in a year or two. To me, Coach, I don't think you'll ever retire. I think you're always going to be I don't see you sitting around, sitting at home. I think you're always going to be, I imagine you being 80 years old still in some gym, yelling at some kid, how to shoot the ball and everything else.
I bet some of you people probably thought I looked like I'm 80 years old. I'm not sure how much longer it'll go. I really enjoy it. Now, I've been out of teaching. This is my 6th year out of teaching, and I don't miss most of it. Education's definitely changed, but I still enjoy the coaching. If my wife will let me go somewhere warm in the winter, then the coaching may go bye-bye. But right now, there's no plans on that according to her.
So coaching just as long as possible until the wife says we got to go?
Well, it looks like it. It looks like it. It's nice to not have to teach and be able to coach, and I do enjoy it. We've been done about a month now, and I'm bored. I'm ready to get back to it, and we will here soon.
That's precisely why when people said even a couple of years ago there was, once your son graduated that you would retire, or, I said, I don't think he'll ever. I said, even if they move to South Carolina, I've heard you say that, or Florida, somewhere nice. I said, he'll find a basketball gym because he's just there's just people that's basketball junkies, Coach. And I 1,001% believe that you're one of them.
You're probably right there. I sometimes think I coach because I'm not very good at anything else. And maybe some people figure I'm not very good at it. But I do it. I do enjoy it. And as long as I enjoy it, I figure let's keep doing it.
Coach, who was your inspiration? Like you've been doing it for so long. Who were the guys that you kind of mimicked? I know you who when you first started out, even to now, that you kind of want to adapt their coaching style.
When I started out, I had nobody. I really don't know. I started out and just wherever I was at, that was it. My first couple of years, I don't feel like I was a very good varsity coach. I feel kind of bad for those kids. That was back in the early 90s. And then I started getting into the fast break stuff. Rick Pitino was one. I know he's a popular fella. Paul Westhead back with Loyola Marymount. I loved watching them. And those were the first two. There were some friends that helped me along, some people that nobody had ever heard of before, high school coaches, and gave me some ideas, and I just put them all together. But really, the Rick Pitinos, the Paul Westheads were two of the ones that I enjoy watching their games. I pick up a lot of stuff from watching games, and I've always enjoyed pressing and playing fast. If you can't play fast, then you don't. But if I can, that's the first thing I usually look for in a team.
Yeah, I know you. That's the way you love to play. I've seen you always say, "Hey, I want to play as fast as I can, get up as many shots as you can." As a former player, I can say that fitted why I was on the bench and not out there because I was never going to be the fast guy on the bit, on there. But I heard at one point in time you say that you didn't always play that style. You were a slow down pace at one point. What changed?
Probably I didn't win enough, I'm guessing. I had a guy tell me one time you should play more to your personality. And my personality isn't real quiet. Just stand around, make 12 passes. And I can actually do that probably better now than I could 30 years ago.
I told you you're getting soft, Coach. I've told you you're getting soft.
Oh, yeah. We're not practicing 3 times a day like you guys remember and running 600 suicides at practice. A lot of those things, I must have a little dementia because I just don't remember it all that way.
Hey, we all do, Coach. We all do.
It's funny how that works. Yeah. You don't treat them like you treated me. And it's funny. I don't remember all that.
What so just personality is just that and was that the epiphany? Like, hey, I got to be up and down.
Yeah, I think so. I think when I first started, I probably wasn't the funnest guy to be around, coaching wise. And I know,
Coach, I don't know if much has changed. That's it.
Well, maybe I won't argue that, but the kids enjoyed going faster, I think, and took a liking to it. I took some meetings early trying to like it, and I have figured out through the years that I'd rather win than do something I like. So if you had to slow down, this past year was one of them. When I figured out we couldn't press, we got a lot better, but I have been known to be a slow learner.
Coach, was there a certain player that you kind of grew up enjoying? I know you're kind of a Pistol Pete guy. Was that kind of your guy too?
Not overly. I doubt there's many people on here can remember the old St. Louis Hawks before they moved to Atlanta, and Pistol Pete did play with them, but I don't know if there was ever really a player as such. But that's a good point. I enjoyed that. I don't know if I really ever had a favorite NBA player, to be honest with you.
Just coaching and taking their styles. I got to ask you because it's funny. There's a show called, I don't know if you've seen, it's called Showtime, and they had Paul Westhead and Kenny Miller. Me and him were messaging. He said if I didn't know Paul Westhead was like that, I told Coach he was losing his mind if we would have saw that show. They don't paint him in a great light. I mean, was he really like that, Coach? Do you know, or is he just
never met the fella?
Yeah,
I guess I think anybody who wants to coach pros got to be a little bit off. That's a hard job, and probably harder now than it was then. But interesting fella. I know he's real big into Shakespeare, but if people that haven't ever watched his teams back in the, I guess, early 90s, and really enjoy fast break basketball, they're in for a treat. I suggest they find those games, and teams scoring 140, 150 points now in college takes about a week to do. And they told him he had to be a little crazy, and I definitely was sure he was a little crazy.
When you first saw that fast break, were you like, that's the style? Like, was it instant click, or was it like, oh, I would love to play that way? Or how did you come about with following their playground?
Well, I had a good friend that showed me about it, gave me a video on it, and I said, "Yeah, it's really simple. It's really simple. You're one man. The point guard has certain responsibility. The two man has a certain responsibility. The three man, so forth, so forth." And it seems so simple. It was something I can understand. If it's complicated, I can't understand it. And, they said, have your players do one thing. Now, it helped to have his players do those one things. They never really had a spot for the Nick Bodkins of the world, but maybe they'll get it figured out one of these days.
Hey, that's the problem. They didn't fit me in, Coach.
Well, in college, you can kind of get the guys you need. In high school, this doesn't quite work that way.
Coach, you mentioned, 30 plus years in the Frisco League, all not Division II, but, Class 2, Class 1 schools. Was there ever opportunity that something bigger, shinier, brighter came along, and why not?
I spent 10 years at Crocker, and things were good. We won 4 districts. I think we played in the finals 3 other years. And I just decided that after those 10 years, it was a time to let the leaf. I just needed to change. We'd gone through a whole lot of administration people, and my oldest had graduated. And I looked at bigger schools. Nothing just really fit. I really thought I was done with the Frisco League. I had a couple other opportunities, but I stayed. I don't know if I was too lazy to move and, just went 12 miles up the road. I've lived in the same house for the last 20 plus years, and maybe I just got comfortable. I don't know, but it's been good to me. It's worked out well.
Ever thought of it throughout the last 30 plus years, like coaching, like even an assistant coach at college or anything like that?
I don't. College, they want people usually that played in college. And I sure didn't do that. I didn't play in high school. So, yeah, it'd been great, but nobody knocked my door down. So here I am still, and it's fine. It's fine. I'm not sure how good I would have been at a big school. I know a lot of the big schools have a system from high school on down, and I changed my system so much. I'm probably pretty hard to scout. Maybe that's one of my advantages.
That's why, Coach, 500 wins. You can't don't sell yourself short there. That's 500 plus more than a lot of other people.
Well, I appreciate it, but it means a couple things. It means I'm old, number one, coached a long time. And number two, I've had players that wanted to get better. You were around a lot of them. And not having another life, I don't golf. That's the most frustrating sport there is. I don't.
Amen, Coach. That's why that's why this show created. I can't do anything else other than bump my gums. You know that from experience. So, I
remember you were going to be a newspaper man at one time. Good thing that ain't happened. Huh? Those newspapers are really taking off here.
No, they're dead to the world, Coach. So that's what landed here. I can't golf. I don't have patience for the old hand-eye coordination was never good for me, and so can't golf. Don't have patience for fishing. So that's how the BodkinShow was created.
Hey, I'm glad, and I see you being very successful at it. I know you can talk.
Amen to that. We appreciate it, Coach. What's like? Do you have like a big regret from like coaching all these years? Like something like you wish you would have done differently, or hey, maybe I need to change styles because either the kids have changed, I need to change, or I'm getting worn out.
Oh, hindsight's 20/20. I sometimes wish I was nicer to people. I've hurt some feelings through the years, but I'm still invited to a lot of weddings. I'm still invited to graduations, just the kids recently. I wonder if I've enjoyed it enough. All of a sudden, it's gone. 30 years, where'd they go? Sometimes I do wish when I left Crocker, I would have got out of the Frisco League, not because I haven't enjoyed it, because you have to coach against people you really enjoy, you really like. And that's one of the toughest things, when I left Iberia, I went to Dixon for 3 years, and I'm coaching against kids I had in junior high at Iberia, and it's no fun. I mean, the only people I want them to win, except for when they're against me, and kids that gave me everything, and it's hard to coach against them, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to be proud of them when they're doing well, right? Like, hey, you saw that in them, right?
Exactly. The only times I want them to lose was when I'm coaching them, and still we go back to Iberian or Dixon or wherever, and it's tough at times, definitely.
Biggest accomplishment, is it those 2 Final Four runs, or do you have something other than that?
Oh, you mean beside being on the Bodkin Show?
Put that on the resume, Coach. Put that on the high school. When you decide you're gonna go to college and coach, you can put that on the resume.
Either that or it'll look good on my tombstone. I don't know. I've enjoyed it all. Always wish there was one. The worst part about losing at the end of the year is it's over, and that group will never be together again. And what am I going to do tomorrow? Because I have no basketball to go to. The winning part, when you win a district, or even when you win a district game, your season continues. And to me, that's the best part of it. You're giving those kids another opportunity to play. We get to stay together for a while. Rarely, there's been a couple of years I'm glad the season's over, but it's been a rarity. And I've been so lucky in that sense. I mean, right now I've got a group of kids that are great. And it's nice to get up and go to work. I mean, they disappoint you. They're kind of like your own kids. They disappoint you at times, but it's just part of growing up, and watching them grow up is, a big accomplishment itself. Look at you. Who would have thought this? Big time media man.
I don't know about that yet, but I would have thought it, Coach. I would have thought it. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I know you did. You kept telling me. We just didn't believe you.
There might have been a few, I think. There might have been a few.
Maybe one or two.
Maybe one or two. Coach, what do you say to people like myself who you feel like you got a little softer, or you've kind of, mellowed out a little bit?
I think you might be right, to be honest with you. High blood pressure, a little anxiety, taking a lot of medicine. I don't know if I can afford any more medicine. Medication's high nowadays. I probably have a little bit, but I wonder, I think sometimes I've hurt feelings a little more than I should have. And I remember it was Dick Bennett when he coached, and he'd get after his players. And then I read in his book, he said he went home sometimes feeling so bad. And I have that feeling, but I feel, again, I consider team a family, and those are my kids. And why we're trying to make them better basketball players, we're trying to make them better people. And I'm not sure the world's doing real good right now, making people better people in all senses. And, why you succeed, we want to succeed in basketball. We definitely want to succeed in life. And, somebody like you that I see having this, something you wanted to do, I feel like that has been some success. And this is a highlight. I'm not, I joke with you a lot. This is a highlight. I'm really proud of watching you do this.
I appreciate it, Coach. It means a lot. And I can tell you from all the former players that I talk to on a lot that, we always say like, hey, you've shaped our lives. I mean, that's it, so like you shaped our lives, you helped better our lives, and we're better people because we got to play for you, Coach. So I can say that.
Well, I appreciate it. I was at a basketball clinic, I believe it was this past year. I don't hardly remember what I had for lunch. But Ben McCollum, the coach at Northwest Missouri State, said that if you can't say no to people, you love yourself too much. And I know I've been able to say no, so I guess I don't love myself very much. I know people don't like confrontation, but it's just part of it. And I feel like it's made us all better.
And I think you have to evolve, right? We can't think the same thing. Muhammad Ali once had the saying, if you think the same thing at 25 as you do at 50, you wasted 25 years of your life. So you're going to evolve and adapt. So I think part of that is, times have changed, and you get a little softer when you get older because you're not stressing maybe about as much as the small things that you once did, right?
That's a definite. And, one thing I regret, you said that when I used to take losses so personally. Those poor kids in PE that next day, they took a beating. I bet you did some running you probably didn't deserve in PE class or somebody else. And that's one of my biggest regrets of being such an idiot to other people after losses. And I know it's because of the time put in and know we could do better. And I always feel like, it's my fault as much as it was the players. And I sometimes feel like I could have still done better yet.
Sometimes the talent's not there, though, Coach. I mean, I'll speak from my senior year. We knew going in, like, it's kind of, we're building something for the future for those guys. And you guys went on to win quarterfinals, districts and quarterfinals, all the way to the quarterfinals the very next year. So it's just like, the talent level is at the, bottom of the cupboard here is when you're running out Kenny Miller, Nick Bodkins as your starting centers. So, not the greatest lineup there.
Well, I did hear the quote many years ago, you can't win the Kentucky Derby on a jackass. And you do need players, that's for sure. But did I do my best with that year? I don't think so. I know you, Kenny, gave me your best. I'm not sure. I still could have done a better job. I do believe that. There's a few years like that, and that still bothers me too.
What other years do you have, Coach, that you just like, man, if I should have done a little bit different than that?
That one, there was a couple of years before I ever got to Crocker. And I probably should have been a little bit more of a disciplinarian, a little tougher on people. And I didn't want to say no all the time because I didn't want the confrontation. And I'm not sure I did the best for those kids. And then, there was this year's where I wish I would have done something different, but hindsight's always 20/20.
Right. I mean, that's everything, right? I mean, I could look back and be like, man, if I'd have just, hit the gym a little bit more, or maybe I didn't take it serious enough, I could have done things differently. But we live in the here and now, and you look back and, try to change ourselves to be better for the future.
Right. And that's something I think I maybe gotten a little better at. A little more patience. I know you didn't think that was ever going to happen. And I bet the kids think it still hasn't happened. And a little bit more just understanding. And, I'm 64 now. Turned 64 a couple of weeks ago. And I'm learning.
I told my son when you got a chance to coach him 7th grade year a little bit. And I told him he go in. I said, he's going to have a revolving dog door. You just, hey, whatever he says, take it, sit down, learn, and then just go. Don't worry about it. He'll put your ass back in the game. It's just that's just kind of his thing. You just got to deal with it. And I think he got it going in. He said something, reminded me too about him. You guys had lost the district championship game this past year. And he said, Dad, they were crying in the locker room. I said, yeah, son. I said, that's the last time they'll ever put that uniform on. That's the last time that team is ever together for one time. That team next year, it's going to be a different team. And those seniors will never probably put another uniform on other than, that uniform ever again. Because it just doesn't have, most kids from this area aren't going to play D1 or even D2, or you're lucky if you get an NAIA scholarship.
Exactly. I had a couple really good players up at Iberia. Darian Dickey was Class 2 Player of the Year, and he went to William Woods, which is NAIA, got a 4-year degree and is doing well. I believe he's the tech director at Camdenton. And Dexter Frisbee got to play Division II. Now he was 6'10", and there aren't a lot of 6'10" players around. So, if we can get him to the next level, that's great. But this year's team that I had was one of my most satisfying. And really, even with me, we were 1-5, Nick. Can you remember when we were 1-5 with you, how much fun I was around?
Oh yeah, a lot of fun, Coach. I'll never forget. I tell the story all the time. We put the trash cans in the corner for a reason, boys. This is called Hell Week. You know how good, Coach. You know how good that did. We ended up getting next game. We got blown out by Stoutland by about 50, I think.
Yeah, those trash cans didn't play very well that game. Yeah, I've learned to do better with that. That does make me feel better. And now. And you guys asked if I'm a little softer. That was part of the reason I've had to be a little softer, and maybe in this world. But I don't want to give up too much softness. And so we'll see where it leads us down the road.
Coach, you mentioned those the 2 kids from Iberia. Let me ask you this in a whole: best 2 kids you ever coached, or like you've had some good ones. I mean, Matt Street is up top of the list. Like he had a great career. But Darren Dickey, is he the best you've ever, like most talent-wise, or is there another kid that you felt like that kid's probably got the most talent I've ever seen in this, in my 30 years?
Nick, I coached sophomore team at Webster Groves in 1988. I had a kid by the name of Myron Gordon that played at TCU, and he was on the sophomore team. I had a kid by the name of Terrence Randolph who played a year down at SEMO. Also won the state 100 and whatever the largest class was that year. That was the best team I think I ever had. They were sophomore level, and that was just the difference in big school, small school. Frisco League, Darien was definitely the most, well, I say the most athletic. Nathan Rigsby was awful athletic.
Oh, yeah.
He was on the Mizzou on a track scholarship.
Yep.
Andrew Lowe could have been the most talented player skill-wise I had. I don't know. Those are some. Dexter was 6'10" and one of the hardest workers. I tell a story. Dexter broke the Iberia school scoring record one night up at Eugene. I think it was 52 points. He was the first kid in the gym the next day. And, that just made him better and better. He was so bad, so clumsy. When he was in 7th grade, we'd work on just putting the ball up off the backboard and him catching it, putting it back in. About half the time we had to chase it because he couldn't catch it. And what he made himself into just by hard work. But I've been extremely lucky. I had Trey Holzer over at Dixon. He was a great scorer. I got Adam Newton right now. Adam is probably a little bit ahead of athleticism, the basketball skill. Not that his basketball skill is bad, but his big thing is his motor. He just goes so hard. And, those are the reasons I've won 500 games. There are players like that. And I've had other players. I tell people a lot of times one of my favorite players of all time was Tyler Slauson. You ever heard of Tyler Slauson, Nick?
Yeah.
Tyler, you wouldn't know if Tyler scored 0 or 15. He just played. He played hard. Tyler, we're going to go guard this kid. Okay, coach. And never got to – if he said something, everybody would listen. And Tyler was such a popular kid. He was the homecoming king and the prom king his senior year at Iberian. Just those are the other type of kids I've been lucky to have that have made it so much of a joy. Just does whatever you want. And again, I've been extremely lucky. Now, let's don't forget Joey Ament, Jeff Danielson. They're both on the school board. They were some of the good ones, too.
Hey, speaking of some of the
seriously, I've been lucky there. Jeffrey is a passing point guard was as good as anybody ever had.
Yeah, trying to get his nephew to be that kid, but I just don't know if it's
we're working on it.
Yeah.
We're working on it. That's a tough one to follow. But Joey Ment's one that didn't have a lot of athletic ability, but kept working, never got much playing time until his senior year. And I believe shot close to 40% from 3. And that was one of my most satisfying teams, too, was the 03 team. We'd lost to all 5 starters from 02, and people didn't think we were going to be very good. And those guys just never had a chance. And another great group.
Yeah, I remember they lost the district title game to Stoutland that year with the big Dunbar kid.
They had Dunbar and they had Hartman. I forget Dunbar was like 6'8", 6'9". Hartman was 6'6".
Yeah, I think
he's starting at 6-foot center, which worked out the best.
Yeah. I was gonna say I think that tallest kid was Allen at the time, and I think he was probably 6 foot at best. And might have listed him 6'1" on the program. Yeah,
we tried to stretch him out a little.
Speaking of some former players, Coach, we got some comments coming in here. Chris says, "Hey, Coach Schofield's the man, best coach hands down, one of my favorite people out there." So.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'm not sure about that. It takes players, but I've got a lot of good ones.
Kale wants to know how many shoes you wear throughout the year because you pacing the sidelines.
I'm too cheap to buy another pair of shoes, so one usually gets me through. But I do like to get my steps, and now with all these watches showing your steps, tell you you're in good health. I want to get up there, and it looks like I'm exercising.
And your old buddy Jay Goodrich wants to know, he said, snowball hit the car. How bad practice was the next day after that?
I believe that was after a loss, if I'm not mistaken. So it probably wasn't going to be good. And I do remember the snowball thing. I kind of forgotten about that. Thanks, Jay, for bringing that up.
And Chris Long said, big reason why he coached the way is because of you. You're absolutely the best, which I told you, Coach. A lot of former players probably hold you in a lot of high regard that you may or may not even know or even think about. I always have. I tell people all the time, if I listed my male influencers in my life, you would probably be, top of that list, especially growing up in junior high and high school. So, you're right there, probably the top 3 on the list there.
Thank you. That means a lot. I really mean that. If I've done something good to make somebody better, that's what my job was. I figured my PE career wasn't ever taking anybody to the promised land. But to make people better, that's a lot. And we forget about that now in education. I think sometimes that we're trying to help people grow and get them ready for the future. And hopefully I did that more good than bad.
I think you did great, Coach. Let me ask you, if you were going to give somebody one piece of advice to say, let's just say a guy that's getting ready to start his first year at coaching, what advice would you give him?
Probably not to coach. No, it's been good to me. You've got to have thick skin. You've got to be put in a place to succeed. My first job, 2 years, I got fired. My next 2 years, I was 8-33, but I think the school district's pretty happy. People weren't getting arrested anymore. Technicals cut down. The third year after that, we won the school's first district, and it takes the right group of kids, and you've got to have some patience with school districts, which is harder and harder to find nowadays. Good friend of mine won the Frisco League this year, and he's out of a job, and that doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm afraid it's the way it is. I've been very lucky. Crocker was very good to me. Iberia, very good to me. Dixon was great, and I wasn't teaching there, so that had something to do with it. But you're going to have a little patience, probably a little bit more, but again, back to the Ben McCollum quote, you got to be able to say no. People don't like to do it, but you got to say no, and you may have some confrontation over it. But if you can't say no, I wouldn't go into coaching.
I mean, you got to say no to some of these parents. Every kid, I feel like, feels every parent feels like their kid's Michael Jordan or something out there. How do you handle that? Because I struggle. I coached just my son's, little league basketball team. I had a parent who felt like their kid should have got more playing time or this and that. And I don't know I didn't handle it probably the best way. How do you handle that situation when every parent thinks that their kid's the greatest thing to ever touch a basketball court?
I actually talked to the South Central Referees Association last week. Not sure why, but I did. They asked me to come down and speak, and great group of guys. And I told them a story. I coached baseball my first year as a head coach back in 92, 93. And this parent was all over the umpire. He was all over the players. And I asked this kid, what makes him such an expert? He goes, you give them a lawn chair and they become an expert. And I've always remembered that. And people in the stands are the same way. But Kelvin Sampson once said, if you listen to them, you'll soon be sitting with them. And, I feel bad for the parents sometimes too. They're on the kids or the coach or whatever, and sooner or later it's over with. And I don't know what those parents are going to complain about. I guess something else, and they should try to enjoy it a little bit more. Nick, this past season, I had one of my easiest years with parents. I was, and I'm sure they don't all agree with me. That's just the way of the world. But all in all, I've been very lucky. And usually it just comes down to playing time more than anything. And it is what it is. It's just part of it.
Yeah, I tell every kid or my own kids, and I credit my dad for the way growing up, like, hey, like, you want more playing time, you got to put in the work, or you got to realize, like, is this person just athletic? I knew going in, I played under Bobby Phillips, who I think to this day might have been one of the best big men in the Frisco League as far as footwork. I was his backup for all them years, and I just knew Bobby Phillips was just 10 times better than me on even on his worst day and on my best day, just athletic wise. And you got to look your kid in the face and just say, hey, if you want to be better, you got to get better. I tell my own son that, hey, you want more playing time, you got to put in the work. Are you willing to do that when everybody else is at home? That's the question you got to ask yourself, and be honest with yourself and your kid. That's if you look out there and be like, there's no way that this kid's better, my kid's, not as good or talented, it's because he's not, or he's not putting in the work.
I think most of the time the kids know. It's the adults. And I don't know, maybe they find it an embarrassment. I'm not sure, maybe the coach is holding back their son that's going to have an NBA career. You never know. But
so many from the Frisco League, Coach. It's it's straight to the NBA from Frisco League to the NBA.
Well, honestly, think the world of Darian Dickey. Those people thought he was going to be playing on TV because he was so athletic for the Frisco. He was athletic for Class 2. And his athleticism helped him at William Woods. But it's just a different world out there. Well, Darian was so athletic, he was an All-American in track at William Woods. I think in the decathlon, I believe, which makes you about as athletic as anything.
Amen.
And people, they all want to succeed, but also some of them would rather their kid be all conference than the team win conference. And it's, again, a part of it. I feel bad. I know plenty of kids. I've coached some of them where they haven't been allowed to enjoy it as much as maybe they should have. You were smart enough to know that you weren't as good. I think I was the same way. Bring up Bobby Phillips. There was a good player. Bobby just didn't have a love for the game, or I think it was just a lot of work for him. But Bobby was he 6'6", maybe 240?
Yeah,
we do a sprint, and Bobby could win it.
Yeah.
And but you realize that, and a lot of these kids, if they're after you, a lot of times the kid just doesn't have the love for the game. Maybe sometimes his parents does, and that's tough on the parent. I understand that. If it was up to me, and Misha would let me, I'd play more than 5, start more than 5 kids, but they won't let me do that. Seems like sometimes the other team has more than 5 out there, but it never.
Hey, right. Hey, no, I understand that, Coach. So Jay has also said KYP. We talked about some of your acronym KYP. I still use it today. So you said something earlier, KISS. I said keep it simple, stupid. I think I've used that as well. And so I told you
a few quotes I wish you wouldn't have used.
Kale says Richland has an opening if you're interested, Coach. One of the few Frisco leagues you haven't went to yet.
Actually, I had a chance to go to Richland years ago, and it just didn't work out. They offered me, and it was a money thing, and it just didn't work out. And I've gotten rich now doing it by not.
Yeah.
No, and I think it would have been great, but I'm probably stuck in Crocker now. The nicest part of coaching here in Crocker again that I'd forgotten about was the 5-minute drive.
You're still going to get kids. Every day it snows, Coach, out here. I still think about all them trips that you give. I was like, I don't know how Coach would still practice in the snow, would go get kids like it, all the way out on 17. You're still doing all those things too.
I thought about that this winter, not near as much as I used to. Maybe more parents don't work. The way of the world, they shut down if we get snowflakes.
Right.
Nobody has to go to work. And I don't do that as much as I used to. I do every once in a while, take somebody home. And, I feel like if the kid's willing to make the effort to get to practice, I can do that. And if it helps out the parent, that's great. I remember when you rode your bike to baseball practice.
I did, Coach. I did. Got told to go home right afterwards. So, which is Joey Ament, says, do you still have the old blue Caravan?
Yeah. No, the blue Caravan's gone. He's making me so much money here at Crocker now I could get rid of the blue Caravan.
Hey, there you go. Hey, Joey's gonna pull up to get the limo out for you.
Yeah. Or the 2014 Sentra I have now, one of the two.
Coach, I'm gonna let you get out of here. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. I got to ask you, how come we didn't slow it down my senior year and just force me the ball? I could have got us a 20, a double, coach, before I got fouled out.
That's one of my big regrets, Nick, of holding you back. But, if I hadn't, you probably wouldn't be doing podcasts now with me. So I guess it out.
Hey, yeah, you knew, Coach. You knew if I hold this guy back, I could have been on ESPN talking about my glory days in the NBA sitting next to Magic, Coach, and said I'm in my basement talking to you.
Well, you got a basement. That beats a lot of people. So that's
Coach, I appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck next season. Chris Long says all the way to Kirksville and back.
I miss the old Kirksville days. It finally went under Kirksville. They don't do it anymore. The pandemic blew it up, but I was taking teams up there through the pandemic, and a lot of good times and things I know that probably shouldn't go, Nick, but we'll talk about that some other time off the air.
Hey, I tell people all the time I was a wild boy, Coach. I was a wild boy.
Well, you at least kept it a secret, I guess. That's good.
Every time we go out to Iowa to see my folks, I tell my kids, hey, me and your uncle used to play up there every summer. So
yeah, it was pretty neat, wasn't it?
Yep, I enjoyed it.
A lot of good memories.
Yep, a lot of good memories. Some of the best times. Maybe some of the best times, the worst times of my high school life were playing for you, Coach. I mean, showing up to practice with trash cans and. I remember walking into the house saying, Coach says you got practice 6 in the morning. You ain't there. You're off the team. And I knew we was in trouble then. So,
One quick story. I coached with my son at Lakeway the last couple of years up to this year. And I kicked him out of practice one day. And Brad goes, do we have to come back at 6 in the morning? And I don't do that anymore, Brad. So it's part of the drive. Yeah, if I was going to be miserable, I wanted everybody else. But
hey,
I'm pretty sure I made him that way.
Sometimes I think I get that from you, Coach. Sometimes if I'm mad, I tell my wife I'm mad and everybody got to be mad. So maybe that's I thought it was from my family, but I think it's just from being around you all them years. If you're miserable, we all got to be miserable together.
I'm glad I could teach you something, buddy.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining me. I'm going to hit that outro, folks. This has been another great episode of the Bodkin Show with the legendary Coach Steve Scholfield, Missouri Basketball Hall of Famer, friend, mentor, family, friend, whatever you want to say. Be a friend, tell a friend, folks. Like, subscribe, share. I'm going to hit that outro. It's been another great episode. I'll be back tomorrow night, Buffoon and Bodkins, 8:30 Central. Catch us right here on the Bodkins Channel Network, or Let's Talk Sports. We'll see you tomorrow night. It's been another great episode.